All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something that's, well, one of the most powerful and yet almost invisible forces in technology today: open source software. I mean, this is the code that's quietly running pretty much everything in our digital lives, and you're about to see just how deep that rabbit hole really goes.
So, let me ask you a question. What do your phone, the one in your pocket right now, the entire internet, and the crazy explosive future of AI all have in common? I know, they seem like completely different worlds, right? But believe it or not, they are all built on the exact same, kind of surprising foundation.
And that foundation, it's open source. Now, here's the part that's going to blow your mind. You look under the hood of almost any piece of modern software, and this is what you see. We're talking something like 80% of the code being open source. That little 20% slice of proprietary stuff, that's just the very tip of a gigantic iceberg, an iceberg that's been built by a massive global community. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this, we've got to first define what open source actually is. What exactly is this invisible engine that's running our world?
At its core, it's actually a pretty simple idea. Open source software is just software where the source code is public. That's it. Anyone, anywhere on the planet can look at it, they can study it, they can tweak it to make it do something new, and, this is the key part, they can share those improvements with everybody else. It's all built on this idea of open collaboration, transparency, and community.
Now, this is a huge contrast to what most of us probably think of as software, right? Think about something like Microsoft Word. That's proprietary. The code is a secret, it's a locked black box. You can use the program, sure, but you can't see how it works, and you definitely can't change it. Open source, on the other hand, something like the Linux operating system, is the complete opposite. Its code is like a public library, open for everyone to read, maintained by the community, for the community.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just some technical choice someone made. No, it was deeply philosophical. The whole idea of open source was basically born out of a rebellion. So picture this. Before the mid-70s, code was kind of just seen as part of the machine, and developers shared it all the time. But then, in '74, a US commission ruled that software could be copyrighted. Boom! That one decision basically created the entire proprietary software industry. But it didn't take long for the pushback to start. By 1983, a programmer named Richard Stallman kicked off what was essentially a rebellion against all these new restrictions. And his ideas laid the groundwork for what would eventually, in the late '90s, become the official open source movement, thanks in part to a really powerful essay called The Cathedral and the Bazaar. And Stallman's famous quote just perfectly sums up the heart of that rebellion. Software should be free as in speech, not beer. When he said free, he wasn't talking about zero cost, like a free beer. He was talking about liberty, free as in freedom of speech. The freedom to see the code, to change it, and to share your changes with the world. It's about liberty, not about price. And this whole idea leads us to maybe the most perfect analogy ever for these two different ways of building software. It comes from that essay I just mentioned by Eric S. Raymond, and it's called The Cathedral and the Bazaar. First, you've got the cathedral. This is the old way, the proprietary model. Just imagine a small, elite group of developers working away in secret behind these tall stone walls. They plan out every single detail from the top down, and they only release their creation to the world when they decide it's absolutely perfect. And then you have the bazaar. This is open source. It's a loud, bustling, maybe even a little chaotic, open air market. Anybody can wander in, set up a stall, shout out their ideas, and start contributing. Now, it might look messy from the outside, for sure. But this open, parallel style of working, with constant feedback and people iterating on each other's work, it leads to incredibly fast development and bug squashing. Okay, but this brings up the big, obvious question, right? If the code is free as in speech, how on earth does anyone make any money? Because let's be clear, this isn't just a bunch of hobbyists anymore. It's a massive, multi-billion-dollar industry. So let's look at how that passion actually turns into profit. And the first thing to get straight is that free absolutely does not mean worthless. I mean, just look at this. In 2019, IBM paid $34 billion to buy Red Hat, a company built entirely on free open source software. At the time, that was the biggest software acquisition in history. So yeah, the value is definitely there. So how do they pull it off? Well, there are a few main business models. You have companies like Red Hat who don't actually sell the software itself. They sell expert support, services, and security for big companies that use it. Then there's the SaaS or freemium model. Think about WordPress. The basic software is free, but you pay for extra features or for them to host it for you. And then you've got others, like the web browser Mozilla Firefox, that make money through partnerships, like getting paid to make a certain search engine the default.
And the sheer scale of this global bazaar is it's mind-boggling. GitHub, which is kind of the central meeting place for all these open source projects, had over 100 million registered developers back in 2023. That's not a community, that's a global army of builders, innovators, and problem solvers all working out in the open.
Which brings us right up to today and to what is, arguably the single most important tech revolution of our lifetime, the AI revolution. And you can probably guess what's sitting right at the heart of it, powering the whole thing.
That's right. The exact same open source philosophy is totally dominating AI development. Just in 2023, two-thirds of all new large language models, the engines behind tools like ChatGPT, were open source. This isn't just some side story. It is the story of how AI is being built as we speak.
And it's winning for some really clear and powerful reasons. With open models, anybody can dig into the code to check for things like security holes or hidden biases. Companies can grab a powerful base model and then fine-tune it with their own private data for their own specific needs. It also just massively lowers the cost for anyone to start building AI tools. And maybe most important of all, it taps into that global bazaar, that army of 100 million developers, which lets innovation happen way faster than any single company working behind closed doors could ever dream of. So, all of this leaves us with one final and really crucial question for the future. We've seen how open source completely democratized software, and now it's doing the exact same thing for AI, putting incredible power into the hands of millions. But as these AI systems get more and more powerful, is this open, collaborative model our greatest strength, or could it become our biggest risk? That is something we're all going to have to figure out together.